Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's live stream. Today, we're going to be talking about kind of an interesting topic. We're not going to be doing an interview like we normally do. I want to do something a little different, kind of how we kind of got started with some different interesting tutorials and whatnot. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about the importance of getting a quality headshot done. And so this kind of came up because as we were starting to move through this whole quarantine situation, oddly enough, we're starting to get bookings again. So it was something that, we weren't quite expecting for a little while, but that's okay. We're obviously, still open for business. And so we're looking forward to kind of moving ahead as things start opening up, and we're in phase 1 currently, I guess, here in Nevada. And we are starting to talk to our existing clients a bit and, starting to reopen communications with things as the city is starting to open up. So as it turns out, we just got booked recently for doing some headshots, which we're going to be doing tomorrow for a medical clinic out in Summerlin. And so they asked us to come in, and we're going to have to socially distance ourselves a little bit, put on some masks, and tomorrow morning we're going to be doing headshots. So I think it will be the first time in my life that I have ever done headshots wearing a mask before. I think that's going to be kind of an interesting experience. So that's what we're doing tomorrow. So the conversation came up. I was speaking with one of the clinicians, and he was asking me, he's like, so we were coming in to do headshots. We need them for our website. We're redoing everything. We've been kind of rebranding our company lately. And so all of our doctors and everybody needed new headshots. And so somebody asked me, what's the difference between a headshot and a portrait? And I said, well, it's interesting you should ask that. There actually is a difference between a headshot and a portrait. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that today. We're going to talk about the importance of having quality headshots done. And that's going to be kind of our live stream for today. So as we are moving right along here, I'm going to kind of switch screens a little bit. And one of the things we want to talk about first and foremost is this broadcast is sponsored by StreamYard. This is the software that we use for doing our live streams, and they're just absolutely phenomenal. Real easy to use software, very high quality, easy to kind of plug and play, and you can do a lot of really cool dynamic stuff with it once you kind of get the hang of it. And the learning curve is very easy. And to get more information on that, you can go to streaming.CorporatePhotographers.com, and there you can learn all about the different types of services and whatnot that they do. Very, very, very cool company. So yeah, definitely something that we are kind of excited about. I'm going to kind of switch that up there, put that on the screen so everybody can see that. And that's our current sponsor right now is StreamYard. So please make sure you go to streaming.CorporatePhotographers.com, and we can definitely take care of you on that. So I've got to do one little piece of housekeeping here. Oh yeah, and also if you haven't done so, please go to our YouTube channel and like and subscribe that. You can do that right at the top of our homepage at CorporatePhotographers.com, and you can see our YouTube channel. Sorry, I couldn't get the words out there. You can see our YouTube channel, and there you can go and like and subscribe. Just click the subscription button and the notification bell, and that will get you subscribing to that. So that way you can get all of our updates and notifications and everything that way. So as we go back, I'm going to put myself back on the screen here. So I'm going to continue this presentation with kind of a little bit of a slideshow, and I'll kind of come back and forth a little bit. And we're going to talk some more about the importance of headshots. But for those of you who are unaware, I do a lot of, in addition to doing photography, I've been working in the seminar and presentation industries for over 20 years. And so I actually do a similar version of this presentation at different corporate events. So, or seminars or things where it's business related. And so sometimes people want to know a little bit about photography, why it's important to have headshots done, or different elements of that corporate type of knowledge on corporate photography. I do a similar presentation to that. So I'm going to switch this over to my screen here. And so if everybody sees that, perfect. And then I can just kind of click away. Very good. If I get over here. Sorry, just got to do a little bit of technology issue here. So as we are starting to do something to which I have not done before. So hopefully this makes it over there. Perfect. Okay, great. That way I can switch that. Beautiful. Okay. So if everybody's watching, there we go. Perfect. And everybody can see that screen. Great. So these are just some of our clients. We actually have to update this a little bit. As we're starting to update our website, you're going to see more transitions like this appear on it. We currently have this image up on our website. On the homepage, and these are just a few of the corporate clients that we work with, and obviously our name, is pretty self-explanatory. We're CorporatePhotographers.com, but these are just some of the many companies that we work with on a regular basis, and this list keeps growing and growing and growing. And we're very fortunate for some of the people that we have the opportunities to work with that are just absolutely wonderful, wonderful people. So just kind of a cool thing that we get the opportunity to do on a regular basis. So if I switch slides back over here, very good. I'm going to skip through that a little bit. Okay, cool. So as I mentioned in the beginning of this live stream, we talked briefly about portraits versus headshots, and excuse me, and had to get a little sip of coffee there. So what's really the difference between them? Well, portraits, if you think about when you go in to get your portraits done, especially with family portraits, you hear that term a lot, where you get the, your spouse, your kids, everybody together, and they get a bunch of photos done. Portraits tend to focus more on full body shots or 3/4 body shots. Headshots tend to focus more on just the face. And that's generally why when we talk headshots, we're talking about what professionals usually get done for their website, for their book, for their social media, for anything like that. Typically, it's what you're using your headshots for. Portraits tend to be more towards the full body look, and sometimes people do use that in addition to using headshots or a combination thereof, but there is a difference. The basic way to understand the difference is that all headshots are portraits, but not all portraits are headshots. If that makes sense to everybody, I think it does. And so that's kind of the general the difference between the two. And also that headshots can be cropped versions of portraits. So a lot of times we can take portraits of people and then crop it down and make a headshot out of that. So that's something to consider a little bit too. So like this is an example. This is my friend Sarah. She is a professional model here in Vegas. And general raconteur, and this woman's been on more game shows and has a YouTube channel. She's amazing. And Sarah and I did a shoot not long ago for some stock imagery. And so this is what you would consider generally like a portrait, not so much like a headshot, but when we crop it down, you can see how you can make this into almost a headshot. And this is actually used for commercial purposes. Actually, this was used by an airline. I always mispronounce it, Hainan Airlines. And they did billboards and their websites. So this actually appeared on the front page of their website. And they did newspaper ads and billboards. This is a billboard that appeared out by the Las Vegas Airport McCarran. And so, yeah, so you can see how sometimes you can make a headshot out of a portrait, but there is a little bit of a difference there. So these are some photos we did for a watch magazine. And it was a European-based watch magazine. It was actually kind of interesting. I was told by the people that own the magazine that once watches become a certain value, they don't like to call them wristwatches anymore. They become timepieces. I always thought that was kind of interesting. Some of the watches we shot in here were in excess of $100,000. In fact, I think one of the ones in this photo was. And once we told the models that what they were wearing was basically a house on a wrist, they kind of freaked out a little bit. But these were some interesting shots that we did, and these kind of crossed that line a little bit between kind of a commercial portrait, not so much like a headshot. But like if you look at this photo here, that could almost be considered a headshot. So even though it wasn't necessarily designed as one when we shot it, that was considered one. And so whereas you can see a very similar shot there, that's more of a portrait. So difference between a headshot and a portrait. So good photos are really important for professionals and entrepreneurs, but they can also be done for personal use too. We'll talk about that in just a minute. People absolutely judge a book by its cover, and it's really important to understand, and much as we like to think that people don't do that, yeah, people really do that. And so it's really important to understand that people are going to judge you based on how you look, and what your first impression is certainly online. When we look at social media websites, whether it's Facebook or Twitter, pretty much all of them, your image is going to appear either right in the middle or into the either right at the top in the middle or right at the top on the left-hand side. And the main reason for that is because people read left to right. And all these social media sites know that the first thing people are going to look at is your photo. That's what they're interested in, right? Whether it's on Instagram or Facebook, the photo is the very first thing people look at on any social media profile. And so because of that, it's important to have a good photo that represents you. Now, the big thing is having avatars, but ultimately people like having a good photo on their social media sites. But that's more for personal use. For professional use, we're talking things like LinkedIn, where having a good headshot on there is really important for professional use, especially if you're going to use this for business, if you're going to use this on any kind of a profile where your resume is out there, anything like that. That's definitely something that you want to always be aware that you want to have really good quality photos for that. I'm going to put this little banner up here, and I see we're getting a couple questions in already. I'm going to change that to that. There we go. And so, yeah, great. Cool. So thanks, Mark. Got your little like there. That's awesome. So to go back to this, we'll kind of click over here. And it's like I said, it's the first thing people see, but you can use these headshots, whatever it is that you're shooting. You can always use your headshots for multiple sources. You could use it for your book, for your product, for business cards, website, marketing material, social media, anything like that. So a lot of times you got to realize when it comes down to getting a really good headshot, you can use this for a lot of different things. We've shot headshots for authors, for example, and a lot of times they'll use it for the back of their book. So like the About Me section or the about the author in the back of their book. And then they just wind up using the same photo on their social media sites, on their website, different things like that. So your headshots have a lot of different uses. A lot of times we do headshots for attorneys, doctors, people in the medical field. And a lot of times they need headshots because they want it for their website. It always looks great when you have a clinic and everybody has their headshots on there. But it also is important to, sometimes send out. If a doctor is doing a speech or something like that, or a presentation on a certain medical topic, and they're doing a presentation, in front of a group of people, they're going to want to send their headshot out for that. And so you can use it for different things like that too. It's also important to understand, we'll get into this in just a minute, the importance of having consistency of your headshots. If you're doing things like on a website where you're going to have multiple people that are going to have their headshots done for like a whole office, you want to make sure they have them very consistent, because it will always stand out, and not in a good way, that when you have like 10 people's headshots and they all look nice and clean, they have the same colored background, and then there's like the one oddball that was shot 6 months later by a different photographer, you could always spot that right away, right? So that's something to be aware of too. And also, if you're doing any kind of presentation work, whether you're a public speaker in any capacity, whether you might just occasionally do a presentation in front of a group of 50 people once a year, or maybe you're a professional public speaker and you do seminars and events and whatnot, this is going to be one of the most requested items you will have to provide anytime that you are ever booked. Whenever you're booked, generally the first two things for any public speakers are going to be their headshot and their bio. And a lot of times events are going to use those two things in combination with all the other speakers to build out kind of like a speaker page. And so those are really, really important to have: a bio, and most importantly, a really good quality headshot. Again, that's what's going to represent you. So what do bad headshots say about you? Well, first of all, it gets you the wrong kind of attention. And we're going to talk about what bad headshots are in just a minute, because I have examples. But it gets you the wrong kind of attention. If you have like a really bad headshot and you're mixed in with a bunch of people that have really good headshots, you're going to be the one that stands out, and it's not going to be in a good way. So it's just kind of always bear in mind, you want to always look, it's kind of like you always want to be the best dressed person in a room. It's kind of like that. You want to have the best quality headshot on a web page or on any kind of literature of anything too that's going out there. It gives the impression that how you express yourself is not important to you. So if you have a really bad headshot, it just looks like you're generally a sloppy person. It doesn't make you look as professional as you should be. And so that's kind of something to consider a little bit. It also shows you lack a lot of attention to detail, and that you lack self-confidence in yourself. You can always spot people that like I always say, I'm looking at a piece of literature, or daily, like the daily newspapers that come out during big conventions and whatnot. It always kind of makes me look at like the speakers on the list of who I might want to go listen to that's giving a presentation at a convention. And I always kind of wonder when I see the ones of people that have really bad headshots, because it makes it look like, well, maybe they're not really that good of a speaker. Maybe they don't have that kind of attention to detail in the product or the topic that they're talking about, because they just don't represent themselves well. And that could actually hurt you in a lot of ways you don't realize. Good photos of you make people acknowledge you as an expert, but bad photos of you make people think that you're basically a hack. And so that's just kind of something to consider a little bit, especially when you're blended in with a lot of other professionals. So this was a conference. I used to do a lot of convention. Well, we still shoot a lot of seminars, but this was like an event that I attended once. It was and I'll never forget this. And I always save this photo. It was off their website. And these guys do great events. I'm not trying to knock them at all, but they really do awesome events. But they had all these great speakers there. They had Tony Robbins and all these major players in the public speaking world. And as I'm looking at their homepage on their website, I'm like looking at some of these people that have really good headshots, and some of them are a little different, but they're all really good. But then like two, I'm not going to say which ones, jumped off the page, and they're just like really bad. They look like they were shot with their cell phone in their backyard or something. It's like, you're speaking in an event with, people that are, multimillionaires and world leaders and highly successful people and best-selling authors, and your headshot looks like, it was shot with an iPhone 3. It's not good. It's not a good way to represent yourself. For the small investment it is to have a professional photographer shoot really good headshots of you, it's going to make all the difference in the world. And you'll be surprised how much that can even impact your attendance at an event by people just not wanting to look at you, because they think you're just a hack. So something to consider a little bit. As far as updating your photos, if you are getting headshots done, hold on one second. If you are getting headshots done, a couple things to keep in mind with that. You should always update your headshots at least minimum every 2 years. And the reason is because a lot of things change over the course of 2 years, right? It's time for new headshots when maybe your hair has changed. Maybe you've changed some sort of a dramatic appearance, element of your appearance. Maybe you've lost a lot of weight. Maybe you have, decided to kind of rebrand yourself, and maybe you're changing the kind of clothes that you wear or anything like that. Could be anything from a new business launch. So I always say don't use headshots from one website on another one. You always want to have independent looks depending on what your brand is. For some people that go into, maybe a new business venture, which is a lot more vibrant in marketing and power and success, you want to look the part. You don't want to use the headshot that you used on, maybe your book that might be about, self-help and personal counseling or something, it might clash a bit. So, it's always a good idea to get new headshots done at least every 2 years. And also the other reason is styles change considerably. A lot of everything from how clothing looks to colors of backdrops. Sorry, I need a sip of coffee there. So for example, years ago when we used to shoot headshots, it was really common to shoot things up against like a muslin backdrop, like a tie-dyed backdrop. That was common for years and years and years, right? Anybody that's ever gone to Glamour Shots knows what I'm talking about, right? But it's kind of the same thing where it was a really common thing, and I'll show you an example of this, of headshots that were done for many years. We use kind of like a textured or a muslin tie-dyed backdrop. Now the current trend is going more with solid colors. So we tend to go even sometimes, depending on what, for people who are in energetic industry, we like to go with colors more, brings out the life in people a bit more. We'll show some examples of that in a bit. But, styles change a lot, even clothing. So, for years and years, whenever I shot professionals, and unless you're like a judge, an attorney, maybe a doctor, there are some exceptions to this, but generally speaking, for small business owners and things, it was common to have everybody wear a suit and tie. Now it's like, with the digital age and we're in technology and whatnot, wearing a suit and tie is just kind of out of style. If you want to wear for guys, if you want to wear a jacket or a sports coat, I always say wear a nice shirt, but just leave it open. Look professional and have that look, but you don't have to do the whole stuffy tie thing. That's an out of style look for headshots. So I know a lot of people kind of look at me kind of weird with that, but the more they think about it, it's like, yeah, I guess you're kind of right. All the .comers, you'll never see them wearing that. It might be like a cool black shirt, a coat and, like a sports coat and jeans, common look. So there's a lot of that on, but, I tend to say now it's like headshots have gotten a little bit on the casual side. So just kind of keep that in mind a little bit. So, if your headshots are done from 10 years ago and you're doing the whole the suit tie thing, maybe time to update that a little bit. And so, the other thing too is if your business is going through a rebrand, it's a good opportunity to get new headshots done. It's just one of those things to think about, that as your business growing and changing and modifying itself, time to get new headshots done. At CorporatePhotographers.com, we're going to get our headshots done pretty soon, actually. Again, we did it for our old website, it was Las Vegas Corporate Photographers. And so we just kind of were rebranding the site. Most of it should be done actually by the end of today, which is kind of exciting. And but as for the next couple of weeks, we'll be getting new headshots done. So it's just kind of a new thing. It's a fresh new look. And the other reason you sometimes want to update them is maybe the quality of your past photos really weren't that good, and that's something to think about too, is maybe the last set of photos you had done weren't that great. And, as we start getting a little bit older, we start moving a bit and we start thinking about our image and our presence and portray ourselves to the world. Yeah. If your photo is not that great and maybe it was shot by, your next door neighbor or your kids that just bought a brand new $500 camera, yeah, maybe it's time to get really actually professional. You'll thank yourself for that later. So here's a couple do's and don'ts for headshots. And by the way, I'm going to show you some samples here. These were all taken off of professionals' websites. I think these were all realtor sites. I just went onto the internet, searched for realtor, and I found it didn't even take me long. And I found photos like this, these most cringeworthy, awful photos that are from professionals, right? That are real estate agents. And it just makes me absolutely cringe. The first guy, chair piece, the whole, hey, I'm on the phone, I'm here for you kind of thing. It's like, oh man, it's just, and the leather jacket is just absolutely awful. Tell if that comes through the live stream with quality. Yeah, he's wearing like a leather sports coat, which is, yeah. Then there's the, I'm having a sip of wine because I'm, sophisticated. Yeah, it doesn't sell you that way. And please, folks, don't take pictures with your pets. Sometimes it's okay if you're doing kind of like a fun photo on an About Me page or something. Don't do it if that's going on the homepage of your website to represent yourself and your business. Yeah, I don't know what to say past that. Yeah. So here's a couple other real doozies. I always think these are kind of fun. Don't take headshots in front of the blinds that's in your living room or your kitchen. Yeah, and don't make your headshots look like it's a mugshot. That would be another good, piece of advice. This one I always thought was funny. I found this one on a couple's, they were husband and wife realtors, and I found this on their page, and it made me laugh because it's like, photos they got shot at the wedding they just attended, and they decided to use it on their website. And yeah, don't go too crazy with the whole rodeo look or go anything too exotic like that. I get it. Maybe you're like a real estate agent in Texas somewhere. I get it. Yeah, tone it down a little bit. Make yourself look like a professional, not like somebody that's going to the rodeo. So yeah. So here's a couple examples of some headshots that we've done. This is for a guy named Vineet Sar. Very nice guy. He was the president. I don't know if he still is. I assume he is, for a company called Hanger, the company. And this was his past headshot that he was using for a long, long time. And nice guy, but just a lousy headshot. It was not the right shirt. The lighting was very poor. Back looked bad. And this was the one that we did to replace it. And you can tell it's a much different look. So as we shot this was kind of the look that they wanted because they like that darker look. Shot probably about 10 feet between him, drop, probably even more than that. The really big lens look. So his head big, consider a couple different other quick. A lot of people do say about the having really shots. Forbes, everybody, there's not a magazine out there that isn't going to to people to say, look, you got to have professional headshots. It just, everything conveys a message. You as a person, everything about how you conduct yourself in your business is just represented in your headshot. So yeah, don't take my word. Here's some headshots we did for Expedia. They're a client of ours. We do a lot of work with Expedia, and just an absolute wonderful bunch of people. I say enough glowing things about Expedia, just a wonderful organization. And so we shot a bunch of junior execs for them. And one of the things that we do a lot is, because a lot of times we don't have the time to get her into a studio, or, it's like hurting. So one of the things we do as a service, and we do this quite a bit actually, is we will set up headshot stations. We do this sometimes at people's offices, like what we're doing tomorrow. But a lot of times we'll do this at a convention or an event where they get everybody together, and we'll set up a location somewhere just to do headshots. We have an event coming up in October where we're going to be doing this, and it's going to be attached to a golf / corporate training event. And it's a client we work with a long time. And so one of the things they like doing is they'll have us set up a headshot station and give free headshots to all of their attendees, 100 people. course of 3 days, we go and shoot headshots for everybody. And then we upload them into a gallery. The people can go and retrieve them. We give them a special link. Everybody can go and get their high quality headshots done. And that's one thing that we do. But a lot of what we do is we will get, when all executives from a big company can get into one spot, we'll come in, set up a location, and we can do a remote headshot. So we just set up a studio, remote headshot. So these are like some of the headshots that we did for Expedia. And again, I want to stress, just a wonderful group of people. So this was like some junior executives for them. And again, one of the things that they were really stressed upon, as with most large companies, is consistency. And so you're going to start to notice that all photos that we shot have a very consistent look to them. Everybody's posing the same direction. Lighting is very consistent. Same backdrop, same kind of editing process done on all the photos. And so they liked having a very, very consistent look because all these photos are going up on the same page, so they don't look all different. Again, that's a very common request that we get. And so a lot of times when we do our editing, and you can notice all of the eyes line up, all of the cropping is consistent, because it's all about having really high quality at very high consistency. So this was a shoot that we did for TNT. This was kind of one, and same kind of same color, same eye level, same general cropping. And AT&T was a funny one. I love telling this story. So AT&T hired us. They took AT&T's call over. AT&T customer Vegas. I got to tell you, having executives come, and so we're going to have a bunch of that is going their bus, and they're going to in and kind of on this experience they're going through, taking a tour of the facility. We need to get every, yeah, no problem. So we said about how, and they said it's going to be about 80 people, no problem. And then we asked, well, normally we kind of budget a certain amount of time, usually about 3 to 5 minutes per person to get a really good headshot done. Just depends on how we set it up. And so we said to them, so how much time do we have? We figured it'd be a couple hours. And they said, well, here's the hitch. And I said, sure, what's up? They said, we've got maybe half an hour. They said, yeah, I don't know how we're going to do that with one station. We need more than one. It can be done. But, I said, part of the problem is going to be, how are we going to rank people to 3, we do nations. How are we going to be able to get this done in such a short amount of time? I said, we're going to need to have somebody come in and basically do kind of like a, kind of a drill sergeant type of thing and just direct everybody where they need to go. And so we said, how is this going to get done? They said, oh, we'll take it. We got people. We've done this kind of thing before. Easy, not a problem. Just let us handle it. And we're like, okay. And so we went in and for a couple hours set up 3 separate stations. We had tape on the floor to guide everybody, had assistants there. So it was a complicated shoot. Every time somebody got their picture taken, we were shooting the cameras into a laptop computer, and then we had an assistant handling. So basically what happened is somebody would sit, we'd have a chair, we did everybody's seating. We'd take their photo, they'd walk over to a station that the camera was tethered to, and they could see the photos that we just took of them, and they would pick out the one they liked the most. Of the photos that we got, our assistant would flag it in the computer, and so later on, we had all of the photos that we knew everybody already organized, ready to doing our headshot. It seems like there. So it makes it really easy, quality, and it makes it really low stress for the client who has to deal with sometimes has to deal with shuffling around that they're not familiar with dealing with. So great way to we like doing that. So these photos were actually shot, each one of them was shot from a different station. So none of these were shot by the same photographer. These were all shot by 3 different photographers. I was one of them. And I don't even remember which one I shot. I think I shot in the middle. But all of these were shot by different photographers. So again, it's about having all of our calibrations, all the cameras calibrated amongst each other, having them calibrated in monitors, everything's calibrated so that everything comes out nice and clean and consistent. So when our post-processors start dealing with the photo, have access to it right there, and they have data, and it just makes the process so much easier. So that's kind of how we do it in that. So anyways, long story short, yeah, we shot 85 people's headshots. It was actually 88 people's headshots in 20, I think it was 18 minutes. I think we got it in under 20 minutes. And the thing that was so great about it was their staff came in and I'm telling you, they were like Marine Corps drill sergeants. People were waiting at the door and they're like, you go there, you go, you go, 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 go. And they're screaming and yelling at their own staff. And holy cow, it was just what a crazy experience. But man, it sure worked out good. And we got all the photos done in a miraculously short amount of time. We're still a little bit of amazement about that. So, couple other things about headshots. Sometimes you want to have some personality in your photos. I used to shoot for the TV shops and not cops, actually. It was their sister shows. Langley Productions was the name of the company. They run 3 TV shows. They ran Cops, which is their main show. They ran Vegas Jailhouse and Vegas Strip. And so I was shooting stuff for kind of a dual purpose for their Vegas Strip TV show website. So I wasn't one of the guys running through backyards and stuff like that. I was taking mostly headshots, behind the scenes photos and stuff like that for the True TV website. And so that was me back when I had hair. And so we were shooting this at night. And so we did this headshot of one of the police officers with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. And we got a shot for him. He was an ex-UFC fighter, if I remember right. Nice guy. And so because he's a police officer, it wouldn't make sense to have him in like a suit and tie. We want to shoot him in action, right? So we actually did this on the Strip. We shot it. We brought lights out. It was a really cool experience. And we did a lot of photos for Metro that night. It was a ton of fun. Nice bunch of people. This is a really good example of my friend Erica, and she is a Lady Gaga impersonator. And so this is a great story. So she needed new headshots done. She was doing some work in some of the large casinos here in Vegas at some of the nightclubs. And so she contacted me. She's like, look, they're asking me for a headshot. I need to get a really cool, something unique headshot for that's going on some advertising. And I don't know what advertising can mean anything. So I said, yeah, sure. I said, what do you want to do? She's like, well, I'm coming. I don't think she lived in Vegas at the time, but she had a suite at one of the hotels here in Vegas. And so she's like, well, come meet me at the hotel. We'll kind of brainstorm, look at outfits and stuff. Maybe we'll go on the Strip. I just kind of like that, sort of, impromptu vibe of something that we can come up with. And, I'll just bring a suitcase of clothes and we'll just go on the Strip and get something cool. And I said, all right, if that's how you want to do it, that's how we'll do it. So I go and I meet her at the hotel and she's kind of packing things. We're looking at clothes and whatnot. And so I said, hey, listen, Erica, I got to use the restroom real quick. She's like, yeah, no problem. So I go into the restroom in the hotel and they had the most amazing wallpaper I have liked in years. It was this cool purple velvet wallpaper. And I look at it and said, I found our place. She's like, you're kidding me. I said, look at this. So I bring her into the restroom and we're sitting there and staring at this wallpaper and we're cracking up. She's like, oh my God, I got the perfect wig, the whole thing. So she puts on this outfit. And the problem with Erica is she's really tiny. She's not a very tall person. And so when I shot her headshots, because of the way I had to angle the lights, and so I'm bringing lights into this bathroom, which is like really small. And so we're setting lights up in there for doing headshots in a bathroom. So when I shot her on this, she was actually standing on the toilet. I think we had her kneeling at one point. We had to get her up a little high because of where the lights were positioned. And so, yeah, she's actually on a toilet right here when I shot this. And this was actually the billboard that they ran with that photo. It was just awesome. And I saw this billboard around Vegas quite a few times, and I always laughed because every single time I drive by that billboard, I just look at it and I'd start laughing. And I'm like, yeah, I shot it on a toilet. It's like, how perfect is that, right? The crazy things that we see when we're doing things like headshots. And by the way, if anybody, I know we have a few people watching, if anybody has any questions, feel free to write it in the comments. We'll see it. And anything you have on any questions on anything I'm talking about tonight, please write it in there. I'd be happy to answer it. So the next thing about, and I don't really get too much. Erica was kind of a local example, and she's like this amazing entertainer. We don't get a lot of reasons to shoot a lot of celebrities. This is Mark Gill. If you ever are up at 2:00 in the morning watching infomercials, you'll see him. He's one of the spokespeople for Ronco, the Ron Popeil business company, and just super nice guy. All those Ronco people are just like real crack ups, really nice people to work with. Shot headshots for him. Did some stuff with Lou Ferrigno. Lou was like one of my heroes. The guy is absolutely amazing. And if there's ever a person that has ever met Lou, they will never be able to say a bad thing about the guy. He is among the nicest people I have ever met in my life. Just a true, wonderful, wonderful salt of the earth human being. So I was fortunate enough to shoot some headshots for him. Just absolutely wonderful. And so not every time do we want to do stuff. Do we want to shoot it indoors in a studio look? These are both shot outdoors. Mark, we shot at a hotel. Actually, both of these, now I'm thinking about it, were shot at 2 different hotels in LA. No, one was in Vegas. The Mark Gill shot we did out on a balcony at the Mirage, and the Lou Ferrigno one. Lou is he lives out in Santa Monica, and so he I can't remember the story behind it, but basically we're on doing a shoot, and Lou was staying near the hotel, and he's like, I need to get some headshots. So we walked down to the street level, found an interesting backdrop that I can kind of blur it out a little bit, and got his headshots there. Lou doesn't take a bad photo, so it's kind of like that. So other thing is, as we start to look at this, a couple before and after photos that we've got. This is my friend Tracy. She's like one of the nicest people ever, and she was retiring from the military. I believe she was in the Navy. And I used to tease her because this was the photo that she was using on her LinkedIn page. And I'm like, Tracy, there's no way you can use a photo like this. I'm like, you're a professional. You're an officer. How can you be? She's like, I know. I shot it in my car. I was stuck in traffic. And literally, that was her headshot for a long time. So we got some new headshots for her. She was retiring from the Navy, and she was getting into doing a bunch of, she was starting a business where she was doing like life coaching for people. And Tracy has this wonderful, wonderful energy about her. And so when I was talking with her, I said, we need to kind of bring out some color in you. Rather than look at this as more of like a corporate look, we need to have some fun, have some color. So she brought some really great outfits to the headshots that we were doing. We actually had a studio set up. She brought them down, and these were kind of the photos that we got. And you can see it's like night and day difference, just totally different look for her. And it's just so wonderful. And it just brings out that great energy about her. It's just fantastic. And love getting those shots for Tracy. This was, the Noggles. Again, same thing. This is their professional headshots that they were using on LinkedIn. And this was the final shots that we got out of those. So again, portraits are a little different. Both of these are actually headshots, even though hers is more of a full body shot. It's really designed to focus on the face rather than the body so much. So it's really considered a headshot. But you can see big difference here. This is Linda. Again, same thing. She was using this on her LinkedIn page. And you can see like now a much different look. Now, these were shot for her website and for a bunch of other sources. Sometimes when we do headshots, we actually shoot them a little off center. Sometimes we don't always look to center the photo so much. We shoot them in more of a landscape look rather than a portrait style, which is what most people are used to seeing. We do it this way in case you ever need to have dead space that is universally colored towards the shot that we did. So that way you can put text and whatnot in. So if she's doing this for a website, a lot of times when we do headshots, I'll shoot a variety of these because sometimes people may want to have a photo like this that they might want to have some text next to for some kind of a business purpose. And so, it's kind of a look like that we do for that. On the other end of taking the photos, once we've got the photos done, there's the element of post-processing. I always kind of like to wear my shirt. I'll kind of switch back over to this so you can see my, I always like joking. Oh, I got myself covered here. So if I stood up, you'd see it. I'm gonna bring my monitor down so everybody can kind of get a laugh. But you can see my I Fix It in Post shirt. I've been wearing these since we started these live streams. But for anybody that's watching that, we kind of make a joke about that because post-processing is such an important factor in the process of doing an editing photo. Well, it's the editing part of the photos. So what happens is once we get the photos in the computer and we tend to calibrate everything, get everything looking as good as we possibly can in the camera. Generally, when we shoot headshots, we never really shoot them in the camera to be delivered in the camera. They always usually need some sort of minor editing. And so we always like to shoot what it's called camera raw, which is like a digital version of a negative. And so we shoot in that format, and it's generally not a normally usable image. Depending on what camera we use, these files can range anywhere in the office here. If I shoot on my D5, photos are going to be probably about 30 megabytes a piece. If I shoot at my D850, photos are going to be about 100 megabytes a piece. So they get very, very big per photo. And so we shoot it in that format because it allows us to go in and edit the photos in post in a lot more detailed ways than we can if we just shot them as JPEGs. So we always like to shoot in that raw format, and it helps us with the post-processing. So there's different types and levels of post-processing, and a lot of people are used to seeing like CG type images. We're used to seeing this in movies. You can't watch a movie at all anymore and not see some level of CG in there. And so this was actually shot for a calendar. It was like a pinup calendar that I did for the USO, where it was a charity project I did. We raised money for the USO. And so we had this like fun pinup shot. This is my friend Sarah again, the same person I actually used in the airline photo. And Sarah, it's a funny shot. So she came into the studio and we shot this. This was actually shot against a gray background. And you can actually see the difference between the two. That was how we shot it. And that was how it was finally done when we were editing in post. So pretty much everything that you're seeing in that photo was composited and generally fake. So the lamp was repositioned, the wallpaper, every element of what you're seeing was fake. And I asked her, even when she came to the studio, I said, please remember, because I asked her if she had a feather duster. She's like, oh, I got this great prop for one. So she comes to the studio and she forgot the feather duster. And so I'm like, oh man, all right, well, we just need you to have a placeholder. So if you got something we can use. So she was holding a makeup brush. So she was holding this makeup brush, and then we got a picture of the feather duster separately and composited it together. And that's how we made the final photo. So that's a high degree of post-processing. Now, even sometimes when we get into more detailed images like this, we shot this for a magazine. It was a Who Framed Roger Rabbit theme. And I shot this with my friend Celine. She may be watching this. I actually have a shoot with her this week. And she is just absolutely one of the best models to work with ever. I mean, talk about just creative and great energy. And a great look, right, to go on top of it. But this was a shot that we did with her for this magazine. And I'm going to show you the levels of editing that was required on this. And you can see the difference between the before and after of how the studio was just, that's right out of the camera on the left, and how it looked on the right when we were done with it. And all these were little minor changes that we had to make to the photo. Everything from removing hairs to removing the sequins in the dress, to, because I just thought it was distracting, all kinds of little adjustments. And then there was all the color adjustments and everything else, from her lipstick to her hair to making the backdrop pop and just adding contrast and all the little details we do to really make a photo pop. When we're dealing with headshots, though, this really isn't the direction we want to go in. And so I like showing this to show like what an extreme level is, but generally we don't want to go in this direction when we're doing headshots. Realistically, when we're doing headshots, the editing is much more toned down. And a lot of it is because we don't want to make people look fake. That's the main reason. We just don't want them to look not real. And so a lot of times when we do editing, it might be minor adjustments. Even with models, a lot of times it's very minor. So you can't really see a lot of differences in here, but there definitely is a lot of subtleties in the difference between the two of these. The one thing is she had a lot of birthmarks, so we decided to remove those. Just because she wanted to get some professional modeling shots done. And so we removed some of those. We enhanced skin and teeth color, made her eyes pop a little bit, removed a couple stray hairs. Very, very minor, but that's what we did on the post-processing on this. And generally when we do headshots, we don't even really like to do that too much. A lot of times people come to us and like, well, can you make me look 20 years younger, or remove all my wrinkles, or, make me, make some sort of a major adjustment. And we really don't like doing that with headshots. We might whiten teeth a little bit on request, make a few color adjustments. Generally, it's about making sure that the photo is as nicely looking and accurate as we can, and make sure it's the best type of representation of who the person is that we're shooting, but not necessarily a modified fake version of that person. Because sooner or later, you're going to meet somebody and they're going to look at you and you go, you don't look like your headshot. I always find it funny living here in Vegas. We travel around the different casinos all the time. And I always laugh when I get some elevator in a hotel casino, and I look on the wall of the elevator, and there's a billboard for some entertainer that's playing there, that's performing in the main room at the hotel. And I just chuckle because, you learn to look at photos long enough and you start to see imperfections and things. And I always laugh when I see some photo of some entertainer, whether it's Carrot Top or Kathy Griffin or whoever it is, and I look at their photo and I'm like, that's a really good photo of them 30 years ago, and you can tell right away, it's like it was not a recent photo, and no reason for that. It's just, again, important to have your photos updated, but we want to make sure that you have the best look of you that we can get. So that's pretty much it. I don't know if anybody has any questions. You're welcome to write them in. I know we have a few viewers here. If you do, now's the chance. We're kind of wrapping up a little bit, and so if you have any questions, write it in. If not, great. This will be obviously going out on Facebook, and we have a recording this on YouTube. And so if anybody has any questions, or they're interested in getting some really good headshots done, just give us a call. You can find us on our website at CorporatePhotographers.com. We actually have a whole page on there of just headshots, so you can look at that. If you have any questions, if you're looking to getting headshots done, and whether it's for your personal self, for your business, for anything that you need to get some headshots on, give us a call. You can reach us at 702-479-7600. So on that note, I think we're going to wrap up for the day. Thanks to everybody who is watching, and starting next week again in the evening at Tuesday, we're going to have more guests, more fun, and all kinds of great stuff. So thanks to everybody for tuning in. Have a wonderful evening, and we will look forward to seeing you on our next live stream.